On today's Two on Your Side Town Hall, a big update on the timeline for New Yorkers to be able to buy recreational marijuana. We'll fill you in on what we learned today. Plus, less money for kids, more for a Bills stadium. The claims spread like wildfire on social media, and the Verify team will take a closer look at that coming up in just a little bit. And opening day just a day away. We'll chat with the Bisons about the excitement surrounding tomorrow's game. It's a game that's been kind of years in the making. Good evening to you, everybody. Thanks for joining us here at 5:30. We're going to start tonight with recreational marijuana, which will be available for New Yorkers to legally purchase before the end of this year. That assurance today from the state's cannabis czar, as the state agency tasked with running the program launched a public education campaign. Here first, an update on that timeline.
Yes, we'll have sales before the end of this calendar year. Some sales. In some form.
Some sales in some form. So that's what we learned, right? In a moment, we'll talk about what else needs to be done to get ready for dispensaries to legally operate. But the other news today on this front involves that public education campaign that was just launched. It's called Cannabis Conversations, and it includes television and digital ads along with billboards and signs on mass transit across the state. The goal is to inform the public about the cannabis law, something that public health experts say is crucial.
This campaign is more important now than ever, as we know that the illicit cannabis market has been growing. We've seen candy and food infused with cannabis. We see marketing that often targets young people. And we don't know what the content of cannabis is right now. We don't know what the THC content is, and we certainly don't know if there are other chemicals in the cannabis products. And so legalization is going to help us really know the facts and better regulate and monitor cannabis.
And those concerns remain since, again, it is still illegal to purchase recreational marijuana in this state at this moment. Joining us live to talk about all the developments that we learned today is Joe Schafer, an attorney on the cannabis team at Lippes Mathias law firm here in Buffalo. Joe, it's great to see you. I want to begin with that pledge today that we heard there, that at least some sales will happen before the end of this year. What else needs to be done before this market actually opens? And do you think that that is a realistic time frame, looking at before the end of this year, this getting up and running?
Yeah, Michael, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. Really excited to be here again. I love this segment, and I think we're doing a great job to inform people about cannabis in New York State. As far as, the big question is, was Chris Alexander, the director of our Office of Cannabis Management, was he correct? And I think New Yorkers have every reason to believe that we will see adult use cannabis sales by the end of 2022. And what's it going to take to get there? Well, the state is really standing up what we're calling the conditional adult use cannabis market. So what we've seen is the state has already released the conditional adult use cultivator application, which is for our farmers. So pre-licensed New York State hemp farmers they are basically grandfathered into the application process, where if they can show that they grew hemp in 2 out of the last 4 calendar years, you can apply for a conditional cultivator license. Those applications went live about a half a month ago. Now, on the next step in the process is processing the cannabis. How do you take that flower and turn it into an actual product that can be sold at a dispensary? That's where the conditional processor's license comes in. And while those applications aren't yet live, we're expecting those in the next month or so. And the final thing, and this was another big piece of news about a month ago, was the conditional adult use retail license, which has been specified for those individuals who previously had a cannabis conviction and have a 10% ownership in a business. Those applications have not yet gone live yet. We have the regulations. They've been published in the state register. They're open to a 60-day comment period. We're expecting those applications to go live end of summer, early fall, which puts us on track for an end of 2022 start to retail cannabis sales in the state.
So it definitely sounds like a lot of moving parts all kind of happening simultaneously. But in the meantime, we have seen more and more places that are offering cannabis products as a gift, right? So you go there, you buy something else, and then they give you the cannabis. They're trying to do kind of a workaround while we wait for the dispensaries to actually get licensed and be able to legally sell it. So the state has been very clear saying that this is illegal, but we're seeing this a lot. There were more articles out today about places in New York City doing this. It's happening here locally. I want you to listen to what the executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management said about all of that earlier today.
There's more enforcement action coming. We have tried to, again, similarly to what we're trying to do with the public, with these operators, to take an education-first approach, to let them know that the loophole that they're identifying in the law does not exist, and that instead, they've got to, especially if they're interested in the real opportunity that we're creating here, they've got to cease those operations. So yes, we have other enforcement mechanisms that we're now reviewing and seeing which is going to be most efficient, again, to make sure that we curb this behavior.
So, Joe, what kind of enforcement might we see on that? I mean, obviously, the state says they're going to deny licenses to these operations so that when this does become legal, they wouldn't be able to be a part of that. But in the meantime, some of them are just continuing to do it. Prosecutors don't seem interested in this. Do you expect that there is going to be more enforcement to shut these down?
Sure, I do, Michael, and I think in large part because we've operated the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, the MRTA, our state's legalization statute, that was passed in March 31st of 2021, we kind of operated in this limbo, and we started to see businesses take advantage of the quote unquote gifting clause. Well, that's exactly what Chris Alexander is describing there. The issue is the longer this gray market exists, the more of a threat to the state's legal market that will continue. And I think that these enforcement mechanisms that he is alluding to, which I'll get into in a second, are critical to the success of the state's recreational or adult use industry, because this bill is a social equity bill and it's also a tax bill. And these folks are not paying taxes on these gifting operations at these sticker shops. And so the state's is going to generate 13% tax revenue off cannabis sales. Well, that's not coming in right now because there's no legal sales of cannabis. So what are their enforcement mechanisms? Beyond denying the ability to receive a license, in addition, there's also civil and criminal penalties. So that we're looking at potential criminal possession and criminal sale of cannabis, each of which are the penalties are based on a quantity of cannabis that the individual either is selling or has in their possession. So the larger the amount of cannabis products you have at your operation, the more of a risk that you're taking, and the larger the fine and or criminal penalty the state can levy upon you.
Finally, Joe, and I'm pretty much out of time, but I want to ask you, today they kicked off this public education aspect of all of this. We're going to see billboards, TV ads to try to let people know and clear up some of the confusion about this law. What is the one thing that you think people should take away, that they need to understand about how this program is going to work or how it's not going to work?
Significant regulation, Michael. There's going to be rigorous testing from the jump, and there will be control of the cannabis product from seed to sale, such that we know, as cannabis consumers in New York State, you are knowing exactly what you are going to be purchasing at the dispensary and exactly what is in that product. That is going to be accounted for from the second that seed goes in soil to the second it is sold to the consumer. Everything will be regulated and it will be tested, and there will be third-party accountability along the way.
There was one final question, Joe. There is a place, or a few places here in Western New York, where today you can legally purchase cannabis products. We've run out of time, so what I want to do is try to get you to answer that for us, and we'll air that segment tomorrow because it's really interesting. But we're out of time for now. Joe Schafer is an attorney with the cannabis team at Lippes Mathias. I could talk to you about this for a half hour because there are so many moving parts to it, but we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
All right.